Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to show you how I do my Poshmark listings. So kind of a intro to Poshmark, step-by-step tutorial on how to do a listing for Poshmark. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring up the item that I want to sell today on Poshmark. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up my images for the skirt I'm wanting to list today. I have a DSLR camera, so I have a SIM card that I have all of my photos on. So when I'm ready to list, I just plug in my SIM card, attach it to my computer, and go through the listings one by one. Today I'm wanting to sell this Free People striped mini skirt. This is what it looks like. So I've taken several photographs, as you can see, of all of the different angles, some close-ups so you can see the details, and close-ups of the material, the back side of the garment, and then I usually do some flat lays as well to show how the garment just sits when it's laying flat. If it's a skirt or a dress, I usually do some foldovers to show if it's lined or just what the interior of the garment looks like. So I included a few of those. This is a wrap skirt, so I also wanted to show what the skirt looked like when it was fully unbuttoned, just so the buyers can get a sense of exactly what they're getting. Also a really good idea to include photographs of the label so people can see that it is an authentic garment, and also of the care tags if there are any, so people can see what the washing instructions are. Here's some more detailed shots. And then lastly, I like to get shots of the measurements of the garment. So I'll lay them flat and I'll measure the length. And for skirts, I usually just measure the length and then the waist. And sometimes I'll include these photographs in the listing, and other times I'll just have this for reference for myself, so then I can just write out what the measurements are. So the next thing I'm going to do is what I want to do is to figure out how to price this garment. So what I'm going to do first is come into Google here, and I'm going to come over here and choose images. And then if you come here and click on this little camera image, it'll say search by image. So we'll just click on that. And then you can drag any photograph or upload it right here in this window. And so what we're going to do is we're going to just bring that first photo of the skirt, and we're going to drag it here into that box. Google will just take a minute here. And as you can see here on the right, it's found visual matches for that image. It looks like this first image here is an exact match to the skirt. So I'm just going to click on that. Oh, and here it is. This is a site called Go To Shopping. I'm not really sure what this site is all about, but we have the price that this skirt is going for on this particular website. So it's giving me an idea of pricing, and I'm pretty sure this is a new version of the garment, so you always have to keep that in mind. If it's a used garment, you're going to be pricing down from that, of course. The other thing that's handy when you do this Google image search is it brings you photographs of the garment. I don't model my clothes myself. A lot of sellers will actually put on the garments and do photo shoots of themselves wearing the garment or hiring models. I don't do that. I just do hanging and flat laid images. So sometimes it's nice to find stock images of the garment you want to use. And I think this is a nice image of the skirt. So what I'm going to do right now is take a screenshot of the stock image so that I can use this potentially in my listing. So I'm on a MacBook Pro, so to take a screenshot, you hit Command, Shift, and 4 all at the same time, it'll bring up this little crosshair cursor, and I'm going to just get this image, and it's nice that it's a square already because all of my other images are square, and boom, we have a screenshot that will save to my desktop and we can bring it into the listing later. I'm going to go back to our Google Lens here and just scroll down and see if there's any other images or comps for our skirt. This looks like a similar skirt. This is from Shine, and it looks sort of like a copy of the Free People skirt. So I'm not going to be using that. I'm going to continue to scroll down here. This image here looks like it's most likely our skirt that we're looking for. So I'm just going to go through this little gallery they have set up here of summer outfits. And here we go. So we know for sure this is a match because it says it's Free People, which is what our skirt is. And this is great because it's actually giving me a title for the skirt here. It's saying Free People, it's a wrap skirt. So now I know what this skirt is actually called. And that's a really big point of the usefulness of doing these Google Images searches. It can bring you to information that you might not have on the garment. And again, we have a nice stock photo here. I might not use this one because of the difficulty of the way this image is set up. I might just try and take a quick screenshot here. So again, Shift, Command, and 4 will bring up my crosshairs. And because these little pieces in the image, I don't want them included. So I'm just going to try and get as clean a shot of just the garment and the model as possible. And there we go. So I'm happy with what we found so far. So we're going to head on out of the Google Lens window here and back to our Poshmark page. The next thing I'm going to do is to come up here to the top of the screen where it says listings and it has the search icon, and I'm going to type in Free People skirt. And this is what's known as running comps. We're trying to find comparable items, figure out what they're selling for. So I just want to have a general sense at this point of what Free People skirts are selling for. So these are all available listings we're looking at right now. So we have a denim skirt priced at $40, another denim skirt at $48, a ruffle mini at $52, etc. So I kind of just take a quick scroll through just to get a really general sense of what people are pricing their Free People skirts for. And it looks like a lot of them are generally around $40, some a little bit lower, some a bit higher. I think the skirt that we have is actually a nice quality. It's kind of a tweed or wool, and it's a little bit more high end than, say, some of just the denim stuff. So I think we're going to definitely price up in the 40s. The other thing we can do at this point of our search inquiry is scroll down on the sidebar here on the left. We can scroll down, and as you can see right now, it has available items highlighted. What we're going to do is click on sold items. That will filter out to just include what has sold in the Free People skirt category. So that gives us another indication of what people charged for their skirts and what price they actually sold for in the end. So we have a $60 sale, a $13, a $40, another $40, a $36, etc. So again, this is kind of confirming my feeling that we will be pricing this skirt around the $40 mark. So this is a really useful tool. The fact that you can filter through the actual sold items on Poshmark is really helpful in terms of figuring out how to price your item. So now that we've done that, we have a couple of stock images, we have a sense of what to price our item for. We're going to go ahead and start our listing. So we come up here to the top right where it says sell on Poshmark, and that's usually located right below your store icon here. Sometimes you have to scroll up to see it, and we will click on that. That brings us to our listing page, and here we go. So as you can see, it's divided into sections. Photos and videos are first. You can add up to 16 photos and 1 video to show the angles and details of your item. The title, the description, category, quantity if you're selling multiples of an item, the size. If it's new with tags, you would indicate that here. The brand, the color, you can choose up to 2. Style tags, we'll get into that. Pricing, if you know the original price and what you're going to list it for. If you want to add any discounts on your shipping, you can do it here too. And then the availability, and then you would ultimately list it at the end. So let's go through that in more detail in terms of actually listing our item. So the first thing we want to do is bring in our photos of the item. So I'll go back to my hard drive here where I have my images of the skirt, and we're allowed to bring in 16 photos on Poshmark, which is great. It's a lot of photos, so you can get a lot of angles, and 1 video, which I do use sometimes, but we're not going to be doing that for this listing. So we're going to choose the 16 photos that we want to include in our listing. So I definitely want to include this first image. It's just a hanging front shot of the garment, so that will be an important shot. Then I definitely want to include this detail, a close-up of the fabric, the back side of the garment. I want to include this flat lay, the inside of the skirt when it's unbuttoned. Definitely want the picture of the Free People tag. Another detail shot of that closure when it's unbuttoned so people know how the skirt actually functions. And then we'll get the pictures of the measurements of the garment. It's nice to include those. I always include them in writing, but sometimes it's nice to have the images as well. And then I did take photos of the care tags as well. It's always a good idea to do that. So we'll include those as well. I'm not sure how many photos that is, so we'll drag them into our box here. And it looks like we've chosen 13. So we still have space for 3 more. We're going to click apply to apply those. And then we're going to add a couple of more. I generally like to use all of the images that I can. So at this point, I'm going to go to our desktop and then pull in those 2 stock photos we found. This one, as you can see, is cropped in a bit of a weird way. So I'm going to click Edit Photo, and I'm going to drag that down so it's not focused on her feet anymore, more of the actual skirt. It's not an ideal photo. It's cutting off a lot of her body, but at least we are seeing the skirt. So now that I've moved the image around, I'm going to click Apply. And as you can see, it has edited the photo. The other stock photo looks good to me. We see the whole skirt, so we'll leave that as is. And it looks like we have room for 1 more photo. So I do like to use all of the photos that we can. So I'm going to come back to my hard drive here with the images, the photographs I took. And I think I'll bring in this image here, which is just a hanging picture of the skirt but from the right side of the garment. So we'll drag that in, and that's our full capacity for photos. Now what I want to do is decide what the cover shot is going to be. I do like this image that I took myself of the garment hanging against the wall, but I'm thinking the stock photo might be a better choice because it just shows the garment being worn, so people can get a better sense of what the garment actually looks like on a body. And to that end, I will also bring up this other stock photo. So that'll be the second image. The layout here is basically cover shot, the second image, and so on. In the order you're seeing here is the order that people are going to see the garment. So I think I also drag this last photo up to follow our first hanging image. So we have it from the front and then from the side, and then we're going into the details, and then we see the back side of the garment, and so on. I think what I might do as well is drag the care tag photos before the measurement photos. I think I want the measurement photos to be the last because they're maybe the least important, because I am going to be writing that information into our listing as well. So now that I'm happy with the layout of our images, I'm going to continue to scroll down. And the next thing we have to do is figure out what our title is. So the prompt here on the left says, share key details like brand, size, and color. And that's generally exactly what I do. So this is a Free People, and we've learned from our Google Lens search that it's called It's a Wrap, this particular skirt. So we'll say Free People, It's a Wrap, striped skirt. And I forget what size it is. So here we're going to go back to our images. I'm going to find the one with the tag on it, and I can see right here it's a size small. So I generally include the size in my listing title. You don't have to, but I find it's a pretty pertinent piece of information that I like to have people be able to see that right from the get-go. So we could add the words red and white striped skirt. I might just leave it as is. Sometimes I do include the colors, but I don't think I'm going to for this one. I might come back and change that later, but the next thing we're going to do is fill in the description box. So it says, tell shoppers about your listing by describing the brand, size, color, condition, material, and any other noteworthy details. I usually start by copying and pasting my title to be the first line of the description. So I've highlighted that. I'm going to hit Command C. Then I'm going to click inside the description box and hit Command V. And as you can see, that has copied that first statement. Then I'll hit return a couple times, and I'm going to start describing the item in a little bit more detail. So I'll say super cute, Free People, red and white striped skirt. Wrap skirt with buckle detail at waist. Buckle, we'll say buckle closure detail at waist. I want to sort of describe what the fabric is, so I'm going to come back to our photographs here and get a close-up of the fabric tag. So this is actually 100% cotton. So I want to include that information in our listing. 100% cotton. And then it kind of has a boucle kind of feel where it's quite textured. So I want to include reference to that sort of textured element. So I'll write textured thick cotton with a boucle feel. If you don't know what boucle is, it's kind of a tweed type material. A lot of the Chanel suits have that kind of boucle wool fabric. This is a little bit like that. I might end up changing that, but we'll see. What other details can we include here? Oh, we should include the word mini skirt because it is a small skirt, or a mini skirt, sorry. So we want to include that information. We want to give the people who are looking at this the most information possible. We want to mention that the skirt is lined, so I'll write lined. And what else can we think of to write about this? We want to mention the condition. That's a huge thing when you're selling pre-owned items. This skirt happens to be in excellent pre-owned condition, so that is what we will write. You have to be honest about these things. If there are any flaws, any stains, any little tears or rips, you have to include that in your description. And also, it's a really good idea to include photographs of those flaws. We were lucky finding this pre-owned item in really excellent condition with no flaws, so we are stating that fact. And the next thing we're going to do is include the approximate measurements. So I always write approx flat lay measurements. And then I'm going to go back to my photographs here. And I'm going to zoom in on the photo I took of the length. So we see it's around 17 inches. So we'll write length 17 inches. And then we have a picture of the waist measurement. It's about 14 inches. And for waist measurements, you can, by extension, understand this is like going to fit a size 28 waist, because this is just half of the waist, the 14. So that's a good way for people to know, oh, if I'm usually a size 28, a 14-inch flat lay will work for me. So that's it for the description for now. I might come back and add to this if I think of anything else. We're going to move down to the category section now. So we'll click on this drop-down menu, and we're choosing women. There's men, kids, home, pets, and electronics for the other options. This is a women's item. And we'll come down here to skirts and click on that. Next, it'll give you a subcategory option, which is optional. So we'll have a look here if any of these subcategories apply to our skirt. And I would say it's pretty much a mini skirt. So we'll click on mini. Quantity, we have just a single item, so we'll leave that as is. Size, we're going to click that drop-down menu. And it gives you quite a few options here. It starts with the standard sizing, plus, petite, juniors, maternity, and custom. And then we have the country-based sizing. So we're going to stick with US sizing. And then it will give you numerical sizing and also alphabetical sizing. So we already know that this is a size small, so we're going to click on USS for small. Does this item have tags attached? No, it's in like new condition, but it's definitely not something that is brand new. It doesn't have any tags attached, so we'll hit no for that. Now we're going to enter the brand. So we have Free People, and it'll bring that up in a prompt, so we'll just click on that. I think a lot of Free People stuff is being sold on Poshmark, and I was very excited. This is the first time I found a Free People item. Now we're going to select the color. So you have an option of selecting 2 or even none if you want. So we'll go ahead and choose red and white, even though it's sort of more of a muted red and a creamy white, but this is sort of as close as we're going to get to exactly describing it, and people can see the pictures anyway. So now we're going to move on to the style tags, and this really helps in terms of helping people to find your listings. So it says, make it easy for buyers to find your listings by selecting or creating up to 3 tags to describe your item, the aesthetic, the material, the style, etc. And this is optional, but I don't see why you wouldn't use this. It's really helpful in terms of people being able to actually search your items. So if we click on that, it automatically brings this drop-down menu up. So you can see there's quite a few prompts that Poshmark has set up that are probably the most used ones. So we have them kind of at the ready here. So let's see, we want to maybe call this, let's see. Maybe we'll say contemporary. It's definitely a contemporary brand. Maybe bohemian. We'll think about that for a sec. What else can we think of to add here? It's not linen. It has a linen type feel, but it's not actually linen. There is kind of a retro feel to it. It maybe has a bit of a 60s, 70s vibe to it, so maybe I'll hit that. And it is vegan because it's cotton, but I don't know that I want to use that. Let's see here. So I'm trying to think of another prompt here that is fitting. Let's just use vegan for now because it is 100% cotton. Okay, so now we're going to move down to the pricing. Well, before we do that, I do want to show you that you don't have to use the style tags that are in this drop-down menu. You could say you were selling something that was kind of sporty. You could just start to type in SP, and there it is, sporty. Or let's see if we wrote mini. So maybe we could use that mini because it's a mini skirt. So maybe we'll use that instead of vegan. But I wanted to show you that you don't have to use the available drop-down menu. You can just start typing in a tag that you think fits your item. Like say you have something that's Y2K, you can start typing that in and there it is. But we'll go back to mini for that. Okay, contemporary retro mini. Contemporary retro seem to be opposing ideas, but we'll just go with it. Okay, so the next thing is, if you know, this is the pricing section. If you know the original price of the item that you're selling, what it actually retails for, then you can enter it here. What I do most of the time, because I don't know the original price, is I'll click on that and I'll just hit 0. And that's what you do if you don't know the original price. And Poshmark allows that. That's what most sellers end up doing. Since I don't know the exact original price of this item, we're going to just hit 0 for now. And as you can see, as soon as we hit 0 and enter, below the listing price, Poshmark sets up a suggested price. So it looks like Poshmark is saying, in the past, Free People skirts have sold from around $23 to $50. So that gives you an indication of what Poshmark thinks. And we've done our own research through doing the comps that have told us to price it around $40. But there is something else to keep in mind when you're doing your listing price. Poshmark does take 20% cut of your item. So you always want to think about that in terms of pricing your items, thinking about the cost of goods, what you paid for the item in the first place. Think about the 20% that Poshmark takes. And then the last thing to really consider is the way Poshmark works. A lot of the times the way you make sales is when someone likes your image, you can then send them an offer for a certain percentage off of the item. That is how I've made so many of my sales. So I always factor in a 10, 20, or 30% possible discount when I'm thinking about my listing price, if that makes sense. So because we figured out we want to price it around $40, I'm going to go a bit higher than that because I want to factor in the Poshmark cut that they're going to take. I want to factor in the fact that I'm most likely going to be offering a discount on this item to anyone who likes the image. So, and because Poshmark is suggesting up to $50, I think I'm going to price this at $48. And as you can see, it brings up at the bottom here your earnings, what they would be when the item sells for that price after Poshmark takes their 20% fee. So if I price this at $48, I would be making $38.40 after Poshmark takes its fee. I paid around, I think, about $7 for the skirt. So that brings my earnings down to around $30, which is a decent profit. That's kind of what I aim for on most of my items. Some are significantly less, some are significantly more, but I try to aim for around a $30 profit. So I'm happy with that. If you want to offer discounted shipping to your buyers as well, you can do it right here. That will show up in your listing as well. And it is enticing to buyers to get that discounted shipping. So you can choose to price your shipping at $9.99, $6.99, or for free. Poshmark charges, I think, about $13 or $14 in Canada here to all of its buyers for shipping. So that is a nice discount to give. I tend to not do that at this stage because when you're making an offer to people who've liked your items, you can choose to add the shipping discount at that point. So you offer a percentage off plus a shipping discount, and I find that's really enticing to buyers who've already liked your photo. They know they like the item. So then to send them a price discount and a shipping discount at once, it really helps to help them make up their mind to actually purchase the item. So I tend to do that at that point instead. And lastly, we are going to set the availability. The default is for sale because Poshmark is assuming you are wanting to sell this item. But if we bring up the drop-down menu here, we have the options for sale, not for sale, and for drops. I haven't done any drops yet, but I believe that's when you can schedule a bunch of stuff to drop at the same time. Haven't done that myself, so I'm not going to offer any advice on that. Sometimes you want to list something as not for sale or change a listing to not for sale, say if it's sold on a different platform or something like that. But for our purposes, we're going to leave this at for sale because we want to sell the item. And at this point, I like to kind of scroll back up to the top and just review everything. Am I happy with my cover shot? Yes. Are all my photos looking good? Is everything included that I want to be included? Yes. The title, we have the name of the brand. We have the name of the actual skirt, which we found care of the internet. We have a simple description and we have the size, so I'm happy with that. And the description as well, I think is pretty good. It's giving a lot of information. It's not an overwhelming amount, and we have the approximate flat lay measurements as well. The category is looking good. The size is correct. The brand is correct. The color, we're happy with our style tags, and we're happy with our listing price. Okay, so at that point, what we do is come over and hit this next button. So I'll click on that, and it'll bring up this mini window here, and it will say share listing. Share your listing to your networks to increase exposure and boost sales. That's exactly what we're wanting to do. It also brings up the option here of my story, which is if you have a video as part of your listing, which we did not do today, and that's why it's grayed out here. We don't have that as an option. You would click on that and then it would create a little story which shows up in people's feed of the actual video part of your listing. It also brings up the option here of if there's a Posh party happening at the moment that you're listing, it will give you the option of including that. I don't know that Free People is going to fit into this Posh party theme of designer, coach, Aritzia, Pandora, and more Posh party. We're going to click on just in case it does allow us to list it in that. Regardless, it's going to, hitting list this item is going to list this item and show it to all of our followers. Perhaps to the Posh party if it's fitting that category. Regardless, at this point, we're going to just hit list this item. It's processing it. And it's bringing us back to our feed page. And what I'm going to do now is just head to my closet here. So we'll pull that down from our drop-down menu under our profile picture here. We'll hit my closet and boom, there we are. We have our new listing up. And let's click on it and just have a look and see how it's looking. We've got our stock photos here. Then we have the photos I took myself. I think it's really nice to have a bit of both. I think if you find stock photos, great, but I think it's very comforting for the buyer to actually see that you have photos of the garment itself so they can see the actual condition of the garment that you personally have in hand. So I think this is all looking really good. And here we go. We have our description here, the category, the color. And that's about it. So what happens then is it shows up on the feed. And the feed is basically, I have about 4,500 followers. So that new listing then is going to show up in the feed of everyone who follows me. And we'll head to the feed page just so you can see what that looks like. So Jessica Campbell 837 or Jess Campbell 837, just herself listed these, or she shared it from her closet. And this is what our listing would look like as well in the feed. It would just be the main cover shot with the title and the price, the size, and the brand. And then from here, people can like it, they can comment on it, they themselves can share it to their own followers, etc. So that's what our listing would look like in terms of showing up in the feed. So that's really about it for sharing a listing on Poshmark. I hope this video was of help to you. Please do let me know what you think in the comments. Also be sure to like and subscribe. And thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next time.